All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And to try to give us a little better understanding of what's going on between the AWD 1000 web development technologies and AWD 1111 database-driven web development classes, I'm going through a series of video presentations where I'm going through the ebooks of Flavio Copes. And so far I've gone through his HTML ebook and puts me on track to go into now the CSS ebook or handbook. So I'm not going to spend much time on the history of CSS, but we will go into adding CSS to a page, selectors, cascades, specificity, inheritance, import, attribute selectors, the pseudo types of selectors, working with colors, different types of units that you can use. Backgrounds, how to add comments, how to create custom properties. All right. Typography, box model, border, padding, margin, box sizing, display, positioning, floating and clearing, and Z-index. Here's the newer stuff. CSS grid, flexbox. All right. Using CSS on tables, centering lists, media queries, feature queries, filters, transforms, transitions, animation, normalizing CSS, error handling, vendor prefixes, and end up with CSS for print. This is about twice as long as the previous presentation I did, which had 4 videos. So if this one has around 8 to 10, I won't be surprised. All right, as mentioned here, Flavio wrote this book to help you quickly learn CSS and get familiar with advanced CSS topics. You won't go over this and become a CSS expert, all right? But you'll start to learn what's involved. As it says, its history goes back into the 90s, and it is the part of the website that allows you to style the content that you put in using HTML. CSS has improved a lot in the past few years, and it's evolving fast. All right. My goal is to give you a quick yet comprehensive overview of CSS. And with everything that he's got in here, I believe he will do this. So CSS, first and foremost, is an acronym that stands for Cascading Style Sheets. And again, it allows you to style the HTML that we put in a little bit earlier. Now, a CSS file contains several rules. Each rule has a selector and a declaration block. So let me quickly show you an example, and we'll go back to what I was using before. Now I'm going to actually take this and I'm going to comment it out. So right now, whoopsie, try that again. So right now there's nothing in here. Everything that I've got in here, all of it is commented out. Well, I'm going to change that right now. I'm going to uncomment the div. And we'll add the commenting back in here. So, whoops. Come on. So right now, this is everything that I've got in here. All right, right there. And if I save and bring this up, I think I closed it last night, so I'm going to bring it up in live server. Not too much in here. All right, and that's totally fine. But let's go in and actually do a little bit of styling and talk about how we can do this. All right, so first off, I'm going to get rid of that line break where it says a paragraph of text. All right, and let's suppose that I want this paragraph right here to be navy blue in color and bolded. How's that? I can come in here. I'm going to show you 3 ways that I can do this. First, I can come in and I can say, I can put it in as a span. So I can say span, style, equal, font, not font, color, navy, and font weight, bold. So this is the first thing that I can do. And I put that in there, and we end this. Oh, we want to end the span. And I'm going to actually break this up into a few lines so you can hopefully see everything that is going on here. So put that here, and actually let me put this on its own line. Get rid of that. Here, it's perfect, exactly what I wanted to show you. Now, just like before, we've got a paragraph that starts here and it ends here. All right, so what has changed? Well, probably taking a look at it, it's fairly obvious, but let's just go over all of it. This is what is typically referred to as inline CSS. This is the worst way to put your CSS in, because what I'm doing here is I'm mixing the CSS with my HTML. It'll work, but it's not the recommended way of doing it. So I added a span. Remember, this paragraph tag is automatically a block level element, but I'm adding an inline element inside of here that says a paragraph of text. And I'm telling it that I want the color of that to be navy, and I want its font weight to be bold. So if I did this right, and I think I did, what you're going to see now is you're going to see a bold navy paragraph that says a paragraph of text. So let's see. And there it is. Now that's one way of doing it. Again, that's the least recommended way of doing it, and it's typically referred to as inline CSS. So let's look at a second way to do this. All right, I'm going to grab this just so I've got it. And I'm going to bring my paragraph up. I'm getting rid of the span. Now the second way, so again, if I save this, it's back to the way it was to begin with, right there. All right. And let's go take a look. And I'm going to come in here, and in my head section, I'm going to add 2 style tags, beginning and end. Now I'm going to paste this back in, but I got to make some changes. There, and that's it. Now what I've just done, whoop, I left the ending curly brace off. There. What I've just done is the same thing, but whereas inline CSS is designed, it's designed to just take a certain element like a certain paragraph. All right, in fact, look at this. Let's see. I'm going to comment this out, because I think that hopefully at least this will really start to show you what some of these differences are. And I'm showing you inside of CSS here how you make different comments. It starts with a star, slash star, and ends with a star slash. I'm going to bring this back, this thing that we had in here before. So I'm going to bring it back to the paragraph. It's almost the same as this one. So I'm going to say color navy and font weight bold. Okay, same thing we had before. I'm going to bring it back, and you notice my paragraph is again navy and it's again bold. No surprise there. Now I'm going to copy this paragraph. And I'll change this to another paragraph of text. Since it's got the same styles, it's again blue, it's again bold, just like we saw before. All right. But who cares? Well, I'm going to now remove this. And now that I look at it, for some reason I was missing my ending paragraph tag here, which is a no-no. Now this should still work, and it should still look the same. There it is. But now it's correct. All right, so I'm going to keep my styling right here, but I'm going to remove it from here. So I want there to be no styling. Should make sense, right? And the second paragraph isn't styled at all. Again, it kind of works the way that you probably think that it would work. All right, so who cares? Well, I'm going to show you why you should care. I'm going to remove the styling from here. So now I have no styling in here at all. They look just the same as they did before. If I want every paragraph in here to be blue and bolded, this is how I do it. This says, take all paragraphs, make their font color navy, make their font weight bold. So even though I only wrote it once, it applies to every paragraph. And if I added more paragraphs, they would automatically be bolded in blue as well. All right. Now, again, I'm just showing you just some simplistic stuff here. Now, the last thing is I'm going to grab this. I'm going to remove this whole style thing. All right. And I'm going to create a new file. Now, it's considered good practice that when you create a new file, that, and I have not been doing this. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a new folder that I'm going to call CSS. And inside of that new folder, I'm going to make a new file called styles. Oops, styles.css. Nothing special about the name. And now all I'm going to put in here is not my style tags, but everything else. Just like that. Paragraph, color navy, font weight, bold. Nothing new there. All right. And let me fix this while I'm doing this anyway. So let me come back up to here. So style CSS index. Let me go back up to here. And let me add yet another folder. And we're going to call this images. And in that images folder, I'm going to see if I can, I don't know if it'll let me move this right up here directly. So cut and paste. Sorry about that. All right, sorry about that. But I'm going to try to, I took the images now and I moved an image inside of there. And let's see, let's make one more. So let's come back up here again. And in here, let's make one more folder, and we'll just call it audio video. All right, it looks like it put it in images, which is what I did not want. So I'm going to delete that. And I want to be up here, so I think if I do it there, it'll be all right. So let's create a new folder. I'm going to call it audio-video, not video. So audio video. Good, that's where I want that. And I'm going to cut this and then paste it there. And I'm going to cut this and paste it there. I'm giving a little semblance of order, in other words. My audio video now has that. My CSS now has this. My images now has this. You typically don't put the HTML in any kind of folder. All right, so we've got that. And let me go back to my CSS. There it is. So we've already seen that. Now, you may have already figured this out. You may not have. But I'm going to do a file, save all. All right. And when I go look, lo and behold, it didn't apply it. Well, it's because right now my HTML file does not know about the existence of my CSS file. So I have to let it know that. How do I do that? Well, in my head section, I'll type in the word link here. Oops. This is a little Emmet shortcut. I hit tab and there we go. So rel equals style sheet, href equals, I've got to let it know it lives in the CSS folder, and it's called styles.css. Now that I've done that, and when I go back, it's blue and it's bolded again. So what I've just shown you are 3 different ways that we can apply CSS or cascading style sheets to an HTML document. The first way I showed you, which is the least recommended way, in fact, you should shoot to never do this. There's still one of those in here, and that's this. All right. And that is the use of inline CSS, where you literally put your CSS right inside of your HTML elements. Again, don't do that if you can help it. That's inline. Second, we use those style tags. Okay, and if you remember, we had style, and inside of there, we put in this. That's called internal CSS, and typically that's used if you want to just maybe style a page. All right, so these are all paragraphs on this page, for example. That's better, but still not as good as the last way that I just showed you, which is via the use of external CSS. So internal CSS with the style tags typically is done for a page. External CSS is typically done for an entire site, or for a number of pages on a site where you want to go and apply some styling. All right. Now that was quick, down and dirty. I threw a few things at you quickly. All right. And I haven't even really started going into this yet. But I did show you with the selector and the declaration block, believe it or not, if I jump back into here, let me close some of these. There's my selector, and the curly braces and what's inside, that's my declaration block. All right. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense as we start on our journey here, because I'm only 6 pages in. All right. So they say, what does CSS look like? I still got a couple minutes here. This whole thing is a rule set. All right. If we added this, font size 20 pixels, I want to show it to you like this. I'm going to leave that right here. And we're going to really exaggerate this. And you're saying, what does that mean? I'm going to show you right now. All right, so font size, I'm not going to put in 20 pixels in here. I'm going to put in 3 what are called rems. And if you say, I don't know what those are, that's part of what this talk is about. All right, so now notice the difference in size. There are 3 rem, which is actually 48 pixels in size. Okay, all right, so we've got that done and that going for us. Every CSS rule like this should terminate with a semicolon. In fact, if you look at this, if I go back to my file here and I leave off this semicolon right there, notice I get errors. The system doesn't know what's going on. And when I go back to here, it still applied the size, but it didn't do the coloring because it was confused and didn't know what it was supposed to be doing. So it still did this. It recognized that. And in the same way, if I put in this one, but I leave this one off, again, I'm getting an error message. It's blue now, but now the size didn't apply because it's confused. It doesn't know. So short story long, whenever you're doing this stuff, make sure you put a semicolon at the end of each line. The only exception is it's not mandatory on the last line. I still recommend, so this will still work, but I still recommend putting it on every line because later you might decide you want another rule in here. All right. So for instance, I don't know, I might decide I want font family. I want this to be, let's grab one of these, impact. I don't have any idea what impact font looks like. But when I come back over here, you can see how different the font looks. And since I'd already put a semicolon there, I didn't have to worry. Okay. And I don't like the way that looks because to me it's too hard to read. So I'm going to just leave it like that so it's back like this. All right. So this was just a quick, down and dirty little intro. The indentation doesn't matter. I would never do it like this, but you can, I guess. I'm not going to run into the history of CSS. If you're interested, hey, have a read. Go for it. CSS has not always been applied exactly the same. All right, the default stuff, etc., has not always looked exactly the same in different browsers. All right, I showed you the link tag. You can put in this. This is what's known as a MIME type. It's multimedia internet something or other. I don't remember. Or else it's something internet multimedia extension, but it's something like that. The rel is the relation. The href is where it lives. Again, if you want to, you can put your style using the style tag. So typically you use the link tag if you want to style an entire site or multiple pages on a site. That's when you use the link tag. You use the style tag. So the link tag does external CSS. That's what this is. The style tag is used for internal CSS. That's how this is. It's typically on a page basis in inline, again, which is the worst kind to use because it mixes your CSS and your HTML is done with a style inside of the element itself. All right, so before we come back and start looking at some of the basic selectors, it looks like a good place to stop. We're 13 pages in, so we haven't even scratched the surface here. We're not even 10% done.